What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Um, I want to first give a shout out to Ticket TV for his video on this subject. This is like my response video to his video. If you haven't subscribed to Ticket TV yet, please subscribe to his channel immediately. Or, as Bernie Mac would fucking say, immediately. Mm. But, yeah, the topic is that came out earlier today is that LeBron James has agreed to give up his number 23 to Anthony Davis of the Pelicans. Of course, Anthony Davis wears number 23 as well. And also, if you want to donate to his channel, you can do so on links provided in the description box below. But anyway, I agree with Ticket TV's stance on this, and that's the first thing that came to my mind. Is it's a respect thing toward Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis financially left a lot of money on the table to join the Los Angeles Lakers. Uh, Plus, apparently, he waived another $4 million for the Lakers to be eligible for that third max contract slot. So, it's a goodwill gesture for that. And also, psychologically, it's a tremendous boost to a guy like Anthony Davis because it's a sign that LeBron James may be willing to defer for the first time in his career to another player. And you have to give props to LeBron James for that because that's the one thing that would stop this team from being a potential dynasty. You have to do that because look, we all know that LeBron James is one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. For some reason, my haters think that I hate the guy's guts. That's what happens when you're in love with a guy romantically, like some of my enemies are. They actually want LeBron James in a sexual manner. So any criticism that I give of him, they take extreme offense to, and dislike videos before they even listen to it, and do all types of feminine type quality things. Yes, I'm talking to you guys, my haters. But anyway, what LeBron James is doing, you have to commend him for. He's basically saying that at this point in my career, I can no longer take the lead position with this group of players. With a guy like Anthony Davis, potentially with a guy like Kawhi Leonard, that still remains to be seen. I'm still leaning personally for him going back to the Raptors, but I don't know. Kawhi is a different cat. He might be lured away from Toronto by the fact that it is his hometown region, and as a lot of people have said before, even though the Clippers have always been a team mentioned, nobody from that region grows up dreaming about playing for the Clippers. They dream about playing for the Lakers. If you grew up watching basketball, in our generation, a little bit younger, you grew up, or maybe a little bit older than me too, you grew up watching the Showtime Lakers of the 80s, or you watched the Kobe and Shaq Lakers of the late 90s into the mid 2000s. So that's a strong uh, temptation if you're a free agent, max contract, uh, all superstar like him. Lakers, the team with the second most championships at 16 and counting. And Boston need to be a little bit leery of that because if they can get this team together, they might equal Boston and then eventually pass Boston in championships. And they also have, of course, the most final appearances at 34 or 35 or something like that. But Yeah, but with that, you got to commend LeBron James for what he did with that. Now, as far as like the jersey number 23, and this might be strange coming from a guy that's seen as a Michael Jordan fanboy, I really don't have a problem with Michael Jordan's number not being retired, and I'll tell you why. Um, if Michael Jordan was more of a humanitarian, if he was more of a philanthropist, I mean, I know he does things that don't go reported often. I understand how great a player he is, but I think the people who were pioneers, like Jackie Robinson, is not the greatest baseball player of all time. He's not the greatest second baseman of all time. But what he did for his sport, the uh, the sacrifice that he made personally, being the first one, uh, all of the pressures and all of the stressors and all the things that he had to go through to be the first, you know, and plus what he stood for race and society. That's why I think back in 1997, Major League Baseball decided no more, no more. I think Mo Vaughn was the last guy to wear number 42, if I'm not mistaken, in baseball. After that, no more number 42. I can understand the argument for people thinking that they should retire number 23 forever, and I understand it completely. But then you can start saying, well, maybe nobody should wear number 33 anymore. Maybe nobody should wear number 13 anymore because how great a player he is. Now, I understand it, but see, that's the thing. That's why they retire jersey numbers for organizations, you know. But for the league, I think it takes something superhuman almost. Like you have to be not only a great player, but you have to be a revolutionary in so many different ways. You have to do something that so transforms society as Jackie Robinson did with integration. That's when I think it's okay to retire a number permanently throughout the entire league. Uh, but I do understand the argument because Miami Heat, for example, Pat Riley forever retired number 23. A couple of years ago, I think it was when Michael Jordan was with the Wizards, I believe it was. He retired number 23, and nobody else can wear that number for the organization. Even though Michael Jordan never played for number 23, he retired Jordan's number 23. I have respect for Michael Jordan as a player, as a competitor and an adversary. He had a lot of respect for Michael Jordan. So I get that argument with that. But back to the LeBron and Anthony Davis dynamic, yeah, it's important to do that because oftentimes you don't necessarily have to be the statistical leader of a team to be that team's de facto leader. You know, even though Shaq and Kobe were the best players on those Laker teams, and later on Kobe and Paul Gasol and Andrew Bynum, pretty much everyone will tell you that, and Kobe himself will tell you that the spiritual and emotional leader and the de facto leader of those teams were Derek Fisher. Uh, Earlier on, let's go back to the Milwaukee Bucks of the early 70s. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the most dominant center of the 1970s, especially the early to mid 1970s when he had to put up so many points and whatnot. Well, actually, before even when he went to Lakers, before Magic Johnson got there. But, this is when he was leading the NBA scoring, averaging 14, 15, 16, 17 rebounds per game, probably averaging 3 to 4 blocks per game. They weren't recording blocks until the 73, 74 season. Strangely, not until after Wilt Chamberlain left the NBA. And, of course, they won a title in 70, 71. But the leader of that team was Oscar Robertson, even though he took a back seat when it came to the focal point of offense. He took a back seat to a guy like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and ultimately to other players. I think even Bob Dandridge later on. But Oscar Robertson was the leader of that team. Isaiah Thomas was the leader of the Pistons. But for that team to get better, Isaiah had to do a little bit less. He had to do a little bit less. And in team sports, less is more. Isaiah Thomas, I'm going to tell you something. I've said this before. There's Isaiah Thomas of 1985 was a significantly better player than the Isaiah Thomas of 1989 and 1990. He had slowed down considerably. Well, I don't want to say considerably, but he had slowed down somewhat by 1989, 1990. And interesting fact, Isaiah Thomas, even though he was winning championships in 1990, 1989, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Isaiah Thomas was even top 10 in MVP voting those years, as opposed to the year he led the NBA in assists, which I think was the 84-85 season, 13.9 assists per game. I think it was that year. I think he was like top 3 or something in assists. Top 3 in MVP voting. But he ceded to other players. He might have still led the team in scoring, but he didn't dominate the how can I say this? He didn't dominate the ball as much as later on. And one other example before I end this video, and I think this is the best example, the Philadelphia 76ers. That was Julius Erving's team. But during the 82-83 season, the best player on that team was Moses Malone. And Julius Erving didn't have any problems letting Moses take the lead. Moses was that piece that was missing from that team, from it being a perennial finalist to being a super team. And had they been a little bit younger, I think that the 80s might have been the decade of the Sixers rather than the decade of the Lakers. So that's it, man. That's all I got to say about this topic, man. I think that this was a great gesture by LeBron James to cede his number to a player like Anthony Davis's caliber. This is a player that potentially might be a franchise player for the next decade for this organization. I'm assuming LeBron James will wear number 6. And that's pretty much it, guys. Tell me what you guys think about this topic.